Okay, this is a great opportunity for me to bring back my Enzyme Black pseudonym. I've uploaded a track onto SoundCloud. You can go and take a listen, and I'm going to do a deconstruction of it now. But one thing I want to say is that it uses a vocal sample of Jazzy Jeff, you know, the legendary DJ. I'm a huge fan, and I'm using it with the utmost respect. So if I'm not allowed to use it, please let me know, and it won't be featured in the final track. But then again, if there's a label out there that wants to actually organize a royalty split between myself and Jazzy Jeff, and also the owners of the recording, that'd be fantastic. All right, so it could go out as an instrumental, it could be that I record some vocals on top. Let's see what happens. But in any case, I'm getting some really good feedback on it so far. If you've been looking at my Instagram channel, you would have seen me build this track using the Seaboard Rise for some interesting textures, and also using the Slate digital VMR rack for some of the mixing aspects. So this is the finished article. We're going to go through this, and we're just going to go through step by step and show you some of the things that are going on. Now, just one of the things that I want to point out is that there was a really interesting texture there at the very beginning. I consciously didn't want to use a crash cymbal at the beginning of the sound of the track, and in fact throughout the track I've got a reverse cymbal, but nothing like a kind of percussive cymbal or splash, but instead I've got this vibra slap. I'll show you what that is. Let's come down here and let's just solo that. You hear that? So it's got a real nice kind of organic texture to it. It's got this left and right movement from the ping pong delay as well. So I really like the way that that kind of introduces the whole track. Now the beats. This is a group, and inside here I've got an instance of machine 2. This is with individual outputs routed onto individual channels. So let me show you something here. Take a listen to that hi-hat. I really love the movement on there. So this is what's going on. This is from the D16 group, all right? So they make some really wicked vintage emulations of old bits of gear. That flanger, you hear that movement? That's a real classic sound on there. So I love what it's doing there, and I'm just applying a bit of compression afterwards because of the fact the sound is moving so much. And then some EQ here just to roll off the lower frequencies. So back in the mix. Yeah, what it does is it enables the beat to be the same, but for there to be some subtle variation. Nice lengthy intro, no repeat of the vibra slap. In fact, that's occurring every 16 bars, so you can see that here in blue. And we've got a reverse crash cymbal coming to signify the stab coming in here. Just going to solo this. And you'll see that there's a chain here of effects. The auto filter comes in later. Erosion adds that kind of fizzy bite to the sound. You can see that on the EQ here. Then a compressor and a ping pong delay. Okay, back in the mix. Okay, so look, a couple of extra elements have come in to make things sound a bit more interesting. So bar 16. So the beats are as they were, the introduction of the stab sound, and then I've got an extra hi-hat that comes in, which has got a bit of reverb around it, so it's got a warehousey kind of vibe, and a little snare coming in there just to add some variety too. So a couple of things occurred there. What I did was I dropped some of the programming elements here of the beats. All right, so that means that it's a nice kind of cue as to something different coming in. And then the hi-hat comes in, but also, as well as that snare, we have something new. And this is something that I called spooky. This is a very distinctive sound in this track. Let me solo that and you can have a listen. For me, that's a real signature sound. And the fact that it's a long note is creating tension. All right, so there's no musical variation. It's the same note. You can see that over here. So this is coming from Absinthe, and if you're after experimental kind of abstract sounds that move, it's a fantastic instrument for that. So this is something called the Alien Brass. That's working really nicely. You know, the track really started to come together when I started using that. There is also another Absinthe patch here that comes in. Have a listen. You hear that? So, another Absinthe, fourth dimension. I think it sounds wicked. Played in time as well. Okay, so look, we're coming down to the first breakdown where the Jazzy Jeff vocal is, and I used basically the Seaboard Rise is a fantastic new MIDI controller, and it comes with an instrument called Equator. So I used an Equator instrument here, and let me solo this because I think it sounds great, and there's something very, very interesting about this. I was using the pressure sensitivity on the keyboard, so it's a silicon keyboard, moving my fingers up and down to create the modulation. Have a look. Take a look at all that data down there. So that was me literally pushing the keys. You can hear how it opens up the filter. It's a real interesting movement to the sound. And for me, that was much more organic than kind of using a rotary control. I could really feel that performance. And let me just show you here in context as I bring that in. I'm going to basically mute the vocal first. So look, here's the breakdown. The pressure is creating that movement. So let me now bring the vocal back. All right, so this was an interview with Jazzy Jeff. I loved it. I found it very inspiring. A couple of key phrases that sounded really interesting to me. I have actually pitch shifted the vocal down slightly and processed it. So let's have a listen. I'll show you the chain here.
Everybody kind of has the same thing inside. People just don't really know how to harness it.
Now, it wasn't the best recording, I've got to say, but it wasn't ever really designed to be a pristine recording. The Boiler Room show was more focused on the DJ mix session, okay? So I had to deal with this and process it in quite a number of ways. First of all, I made it entirely mono using the utility here. Also brought the gain down a bit. Ran it through the CMX to add some stereo width. Okay, that's from Schwa. Compressor, just to even out the levels. EQ, just to roll off the low frequencies and then just to lift out some highs. I'm not sure I used the auto filter. Yes, I think maybe later on. Okay, so I'll have a look at that fairly soon. It looks like it's bypassed at the moment. Glue compressor just to bind some of the levels together again. Delay over here, I think I tried, but then instead I did a send and return. And then just a little bit of increase in level post all the other effects here. I just added a utility gain there. So that's what's going on. Let me solo that for you so you can have a listen.
Everybody kind of has the same thing inside. People just don't really know how to harness it.
Sounds wicked. And what's going on there is like I said, it's a send effect. So you can see that I'm running signal through here to the third one, which is this, basically it's a compressor and then a delay. And what I've got is the compressor is receiving a sidechain from the vocal. So whenever the vocal is spoken, this channel is turned down, okay? And then when the vocal stops, it comes up in volume. So when there's a delay running here, what it does is it kind of lifts the delay in the gaps, all right? So it's just a little kind of subtle effect there, which adds some presence to the vocal without swamping it in all those delays. Let's come out and let's have a listen as we use the Equator Rise here to kind of increase the hype, and then I've got a clap that I'm using here to add some drama, okay?
Why does this part of this record make me feel this way? The way it seems, one way takes people on some sort of journey.
Let me show you this clap, right? So what I wanted to do is to create something that was a kind of combination of different effects. So I've got a ping pong delay here, which has got a very, very short delay time. So it's a rapid echo. But then, well, it's just over halfway through. Then all of a sudden I automate the feed into the reverb. So essentially, well, it's not a feed into the reverb. It's just the dry wet mix of the reverb. So have a listen again. What I'll do is I'll solo that. It's got a real lovely texture. You hear that? So at the beginning, you don't hear the reverb splash. So it creates a lovely sense of drama, instead of doing like a snare roll or something like that, you know? So now we've got the sub bass. And quite a few people have been asking me questions about this one. me show you. Man, it just shows you how simple things can be. You don't need loads of complicated elements going on. But I want to come back to this bass. So look, let me just solo this. Here we go. And look at this. What is it? It's just an operator. It's a single oscillator. Okay, that's all it is. I've actually added a little bit of spread, and that's almost like a textbook thing not to do. But I felt when I was listening on the earbuds, I wanted a bit of stereo width. And when I listened on my system and did a mono check, it sounded like it was cutting through fine. So I did a little test on that. Okay, I don't know why that just happened. Anyway, here we go. So back with the vocal again. So coming up to a point, vocal turns into a little kind of looped triggered thing. So stripping it down. Obviously in a club this kind of thing sounds great when you take the elements away. So really just kind of building everything back in again. A couple of new elements. Percussion particularly. So here you go. This is just an Ableton standard instrument. So percussion coming through there. Sounds wicked, so I played that in. And then I did this little kind of Rhodes chord, just to kind of sweeten it up a bit.
Everybody kind of has the same thing inside.
Now I'll show you something about this stab. So here we go. Let me solo that. So you can see it's just been played quite short here, and I added this looped section so that I could have a sustained note, and that's what you see over here. Okay, so you ready? Just going to double click this so you can see it. So looping around, and then it's running through auto filter. You can see that, just taking the high and mid frequencies away, just bringing it down. And nice and simple. So it's creating nice shift in energy. Let's come back on this section again.
Everybody kind of has the same thing inside. People just don't really know how to harness it.
I didn't want to go for any kind of big dramatic build up here, so it's really quite subtle.
Why does this part of this record make me
Filtered
feel
keyboard
this way?
sound.
It's seamless, one way takes people on some sort of a journey.
And then, so you know what happened there? The thing that was really helping that was once again the seaboard rise. So over here, look at all this movement. So the pressure that I was applying was creating that nice kind of organic build up as the notes were also going higher. So that was quite important there. The other thing that I've done is I've put in this little kind of sample here. It's like a sonar, which adds a real nice kind of gentle extra dimension to this section. Have a listen.
People on some sort of a journey.
I'll solo it so you can hear it. So it's coming up again. Really now this is kind of like, this is the outro, and this is where the DJ will be bringing the next track in. So it's just taking those elements, just looping them, and you know, reducing things over time. So that's that. So look, there's something to end the video on. Let me just show you what I've got here as my kind of set of plugins on the master output. The first thing that I've got is the virtual mix rack. So this is the Slate Digital, and I've got the virtual mix bus here so that it's giving it that basically the SSL 4000 series. So this over here Brit 4KG. So that makes it sound like it's being summed through an old vintage console. Then I'm using this EQ here, a couple of very subtle kind of tweaks here. So a little bit of a cut at 400 Hertz. very slight lift at 12k, and I'm using the custom series lift here just to add a little bit of kind of high frequency and a very slight amount of low. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off, have a listen. It's really quite subtle, but I really like what it's doing there. Next up, this is my bus compressor. So I'm using basically this. This is another one that's like the SSLG series bus compressor. All right, so it's using this one to kind of bounce it a bit, kind of keep it all nice and kind of lively, bind things together, you know, glue the bus together. And finally, the slate. This is the basically the mastering limiter that I'm using here, so the FGX, and this you know, really all you need to do on this one is just use that gain knob. I don't touch anything else. I use it much like I used to use the Waves L2. So if I want to get some more level, I just increase the gain, and I just basically monitor what's going on here on the meter, and I'm aiming for an RMS of about minus 10 dBs. See that? I just see my disc is full. That might explain why I've had performance issues. I'm gonna have to stop. Give me some comments, let me know what's going on. If you like the track and want to sign it, please get in touch. All right, peace.